Hey friends, and for this week's Fretted Friday, we've got something very different. It's not a guitar of mine, it's actually my godson James's guitar. And he's been having a few issues with it that I'm going to fix for him and I'm going to show you. So, without further ado, we'll get this out and you can see what the guitar is that we're going to be working on today. It is a beautiful blue Epiphone Les Paul coming right up. So the issues he's been having with this guitar are that he keeps breaking his B string, and ironically it's his E string that's currently gone, and just running my fingernail inside the slot in the bridge, it's very sharp. So one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to take a bit of 1000 grit wet and dry sandpaper, tiny little piece, and we're going to just take out all the rough edges on this bridge. The other thing that he's got a problem with is the buzzing on the strings. And that's simply because this guitar has got quite a significant back bow. I don't know if you'll be able to see that from there, but this neck does bow backwards. And so we're going to put a new set of strings on. We're going to check the intonation. We're going to overwrap the strings to take some of the tension out of them at the bridge. And then we're going to adjust the truss rod as required to make sure that we've got just the right amount of relief. You can tell that there's not enough relief on this at the moment. If I fret the first and last fret, there's nothing, and it needs to be brought forward until you can actually hear something. So that's what we're going to do with this guitar today. First little job is to get the strings off it. Oh, you may ask why I don't just cut the strings off guitars. It's good practice just to let the tension out first and then we can cut the strings off. Okay, that's all the strings off. And what you can do at this point, if you want to, if you have one, and that is you can use a straight edge, a notched straight edge, to see just how flat this fretboard is with no strings on it. And if you're going to do a fret job, which I'm going to check with my fret rocker whether this guitar needs it, then this is the time to do it. And the idea is that you get the neck completely flat and straight before you actually level the frets. But I don't think this guitar is going to need that. Let's just have a quick check over. And what I'm looking for is when I bridge 3 frets, if there's any rock in this at all, it means that the center fret is high or one either side is low. As I suspected, we don't have any issues with high or low frets. There is a little bit of string wear on the 2nd fret that he's going to need to watch out for. And in fact, there's a little burr on there that's just, we'll just clean up a touch with this very fine 1000 grit sandpaper. As you can see, takes a tiny little bit off, barely worth talking about, but it's worth giving these frets just a quick polish up while we've got the strings off. So I'll do that with each of these, get them feeling just right, and I'm just touching the tops of the frets and nowhere near the fingerboard, don't worry. And I'm using the very edge of the sandpaper so that I've got that control not to be touching the fingerboard, just to give these a little polish up, and they will look a lot nicer when it goes back to him as well. So really giving this guitar a little bit of TLC today, just to get it back into tip-top playing condition. And then we will do a little review of this guitar because it's particularly pretty, and it's the first time that I've had an Epiphone in the studio since I've had Chibsons. So I will be doing a little bit of a comparison video, which I know that lots of you will love. So there we go. Just taking a little bit of the tops of these frets back down, just giving them a polish out. And we'll also do it with a cloth afterwards, just to give these a nice polish, give them a nice finish for James. And hopefully he'll appreciate this when he gets it back and sees how clean and pretty the frets are. So there we go. That's all of those. And as I said earlier, I'm just gonna, because certainly the E feels very scratchy, and so does the B. In fact, the B's a bit better, but I think he's had that looked at. The G and the A, and all of them actually are very, very scratchy in there. So what I'm going to do, just with the edge, where is it, of a cocktail stick, is I'm just going to run these through and just take off any, just with a fine point, any little bits that feel rough. That way we don't have the strings break on him. That's a bit better. I believe he just paid a guitar shop to do the B string, and it's as easy as this. His godfather could have done it in 5 minutes for him. So if you do have a string that's breaking really frequently, like James's B string did, sometimes it's worth just running a little bit of, certainly start by running your fingernail through it, and you'll be able to feel if it's sharp or if it's biting. And if it is, then it just needs a little bit of superfine grit sandpaper. I wouldn't go anything lower than 1000 grit, and just run it through a few times. Now I've done it with the cocktail stick, so now I can run it through just folded in half, and just take those very, very rough edges off, and that will save you from breaking quite so many strings. Top tip for you there. Okay, that bridge is all in order. Before we put the new strings on, I'm just going to give his fretboard a bit of a polish, and also just polish up on the top of the guitar. And the other thing that we'll do, because it's a lot easier to do now while the strings are off, is we'll take off the truss rod cover so that we can do the truss rod adjustments that I know this is going to need. A lot easier to take these off while you've got no strings on it. There we go, truss rod cover. And this is one of the things about the Epiphones that's already better, much better than the Chinese Chibsons. And that is the finishing underneath the truss rod cover and the build and quality of the truss rod cover itself. Really, really nice 2-ply cover. White on the back, black on the front, with the white etching in it. So we'll now just quickly give this a dust over, and then we'll put the new strings on it, and we will see what amount of relief needs to be put in the neck. Now, if I'm right, yes, it's just an Allen key in Epiphones. So we'll just quickly grab a cloth and wipe this over. A lot of folks oil their necks and fingerboards. There's absolutely no need. Just rubbing it over with a cloth and doing these frets as well will be more than adequate. If there is any gunk on the fingerboard, there's not much on this. Doesn't get as much playing as I thought it might. Then just a dab of water. I won't do it to his guitar, but on my own, I just use a bit of spit. There we go, polish these frets up. And then just with the other, there we go. That's how dirty his fingerboard was. And this will need a clean again soon. And then with the other side of the cloth, we're just gonna polish off the pickups, make them look nice and shiny, and give the guitar a general dust off and polish off anywhere the strings normally are, because you can't normally get to these areas to polish them, particularly here between the bridge and the bridge pickup. It's a nightmare to get to when there's strings on, and under, of course, under the back of the bridge and the retaining bar. Okay, and we'll just do the headstock, front of the headstock, which is always a devil to get to when there's strings on it, and just a little bit of breath on there will do this, bit of condensation. Just going to check which size Allen key this is going to take. Okay, we've got it. That's cool. I'll leave that out. And we'll get the strings. Put the strings on it. Very wisely, James has chosen to go with a set of Diodario's. Not Diodario's, D'Addario's. And he's gone for gauge 10 to 46, which is not dissimilar to my hybrid set, which is a 9 to 46. Mine are slightly lighter on the top end and slightly heavier on the bottom end, but James is going completely for a set of 10s, so we'll get them set up. And what I like to do, particularly with Les Paul style guitars, I like to put all the strings through the stop tail, and then we get them in the right order and they're all ready to go. So we start with the first, which will be silver. I'll let you have a fast forward on this bit. Okay, so there they all are and about to go on. I forgot to ask James whether he minded me tail wrapping these, but he can always change it next time. It'll make absolutely no difference to the setup of the guitar. It just means it puts a little less tension across the bridge with these strings, and the setup will be exactly the same, the relief in the neck. And we'll start with the low E string, because that way we will end up with a little bit more chance of holding that bridge in. So 2 winds on the lower strings, 3 winds by the time we've wound on the upper strings, and we'll just get rid of all these bits that are nearly taking my eyes out. Okay, now we need to tune it up to pitch. Bit of a stretch. Stretch each of the strings, give them a bit of a tug. A few times. Oh, that one loosed off. Not a million miles out. We'll use a tuner for the last knock-ins. Okay, right. We don't have to be that close because we're still going to do the setup. Now, what he's going to want here is he's going to want a little bit of the action taken down. So we're going to wind back these bridge posts a little bit. And then we're going to put some relief in it. We'll have to tune it back up to pitch. I'm just taking that down to somewhere on the 12th fret where I think would be a low action for him. And then we will set the neck relief, because at the minute you'll be able to hear no neck relief at all. So what we want to do is we want to just do a couple of righty-tighties. We're getting there. One more little 8th turn and I think we might be there. Often easier if you move the middle 2 strings out for this little job. Not quite. Still not quite there. Just really an 1/8 turn at a time. And there we've got it. Have we got it on the bass notes? I'm just going to give it one last little bit because we still got a bit of buzzing on the... That's better. So, we need to tune it back up to pitch, let it settle for a bit, and then see if we are still we seem to be without buzz already, and I've lowered that action significantly. Let's get it tuned up. Well, certainly we seem to have cured the fret buzz. Might still be just a touch, just a little touch. And I'm wondering if we can go down just a little bit more on that bridge as well before we call it a day, because I know he does like quite a low action. So I'm just taking this bridge down a touch more. I'm just going to give this the very slightest extra little turn, not a lot. It's going to be less than an 1/8 of a turn, but just because I know these truss rods, they can sometimes just need a little bit more of a turn than you think. Just until I feel that tension. That's the one. Got it. Okay. I think we could probably afford to bring that bridge down just a hair again. Okay, there it is. Let's clean it up, tune it up, and let's give you a quick playthrough demo of how she sounds. there it is. There's the demo, and I hope you've enjoyed this little guitar setup. I hope you've enjoyed this guitar. I've really loved playing this. It's a beautiful guitar. I think it's a beautiful color. And one thing that I can say for absolute certain, and that is this is nothing like a Chibson, and I intend to make a video proving that coming up really soon. So hopefully you've enjoyed this. Hopefully it's been useful. Hopefully you might even get some ideas of how to remove the fret buzz and do a setup on your own Epiphone Les Paul. I'll be back really soon. In the meantime, if you've enjoyed this, give it a thumbs up and a like. Why not hit that subscribe button? It can't hurt. And if you do, don't forget to click the bell icon so that you get notified when I make other uploads. I'll be coming back really soon with the Algri Chameleon install, which I'm really looking forward to showing you because that is a real revelation. And as always, my friends, in the meantime, you take really good care.